16th is called to order. This remote hearing is taking place in accordance with House Rule 10.01. It is being live streamed by the House Public Information Office. Mr. Lancheski, please take the roll.
Members, you may unmute yourself when your name is called. Representative Fooley.
Lee, present.
Representative Fooley, present. Representative Mary Murphy.
Murphy, present.
Representative Mary Murphy, present. Representative Dean Erdahl.
Erdahl, present.
Representative Dean Erdahl, present. Representative Esther Abaje.
Present.
Representative Esther Abaje, present. Representative Kayla Berg.
Present.
Representative Kayla Berg, present. Representative Greg Davids.
Davids, present.
Representative Greg Davids, present. Representative Keith Frankie.
Frankie, present.
Representative Keith Frankie, present. Representative Mike Freiberg.
Present.
Representative Mike Freiberg, present. Representative Rick Hansen.
Hansen, present.
Representative Rick Hansen, present. Representative John Hewitt.
Present.
Representative John Hewitt, present. Representative Leon Lilly.
Lilly, present.
Representative Leon Lilly, present. Representative Eric Lucero.
Good morning. No green beer hangover here.
Representative Eric Lucero, present. Representative Rena Moran.
Present.
Representative Rena Moran, present. Representative Nels Pearson.
Pearson, present.
Representative Nels Pearson, present. Representative Donald Raleigh.
Raleigh, present, and donuts are at office 345.
Representative Donald Raleigh, present. Representative Jordan Rasmussen.
Rasmussen, present.
Representative Jordan Rasmussen, present. Representative Liz Ryer.
Ryer, present.
Representative Liz Ryer, present. Representative Nolan West.
Present.
Representative Nolan West, present. Representative Jay Zhang. Representative Jay Zhang. Members, with the conclusion of the roll call, please mute your devices. A quorum is present.
Thank you, Mr. Lancheski. Members, we do have quorum. Representative Murphy, can I have a motion to approve the minutes for
I move approval of the minutes for March 16th.
Representative Murphy moves approval of the minutes for March 16th. Any discussions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the minutes for March 16th are approved. Today, we will hear many bonding bills on an informational only basis. Each bill author has been allotted 5 minutes and 1 testifier per bill. These bills are related to the outdoors, health and safety. And the first bill that we have on the agenda is House File 449. Chair Richardson, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House File 449 would appropriate $2 million for the pre-design, design, and construction of an inclusive play structure for children with all abilities at the Heritage Village Park in Inver Grove Heights. Families in my district raising children with disabilities and special needs are very supportive of this project, as it would provide an opportunity for a truly inclusive and barrier-free play structure that would accommodate children with disabilities. We know the conditions of where we live, learn, work, and play impact a wide range of health risks and outcomes, and this is a project that would serve all children in the community and would be the first of its kind in Northern Dakota County. The project would also break down barriers for children with disabilities. Today, today I have with me the interim Inver Grove Heights City Administrator, Heather Rand, to testify in support of the bill. And I'm also joined by Dakota County Commissioner Atkins and also the interim Inver Grove Heights Park Director, who are standing by for questions.
Ms. Rand, please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, good morning, Chair Lee and members of the Housing Finance Committee. My name is Heather Rand. I am the interim city administrator with the city of Inver Grove Heights. Thank you for allowing us to provide testimony on this very important capital investment request for our region. I wanted to identify that Heritage Village Park is a 65-acre green space that the city of Inver Grove Heights, with assistance from the county and the state and other partners, have worked hard to assemble through the years. It's located on the west bank of the Mississippi River, approximately 10 miles south of the state capitol, just south of 494. So a wonderful central location for this park. The park is largely green space to this day. We want you to know that it is located, or actually we have the Mississippi River Trail, MRT, that traverses through the park that provides great connectivity in addition to being so close to St. Paul and again on the northern edge of Dakota County. That trail, if you folks are not aware, actually runs from Itasca State Park down to the Gulf of Mexico. And in this county of Dakota, it is connecting basically South St. Paul to Hastings. It has wonderful connections to other trailheads and trailhead systems and parks throughout the region and the state, and certainly our city. So we wanted to just really emphasize that this is a wonderful opportunity for our residents and the larger, wider community within the state of Minnesota to recreate in many different ways as we continue to develop this park and the waterfront or riverfront. The city is requesting $2 million in funds for our next phase development of the park. The funds would be utilized to provide a historically themed, inclusive playground, water play, and shade structure area, including parking for visitors. As we had mentioned, and I think we should underscore, to date, while there are some assets along the riverfront, they're largely private marinas. We lack trail connectivity with the exception of the trail that I already mentioned, but also just opportunities for our wider public to connect and interface with the river. The city, as I mentioned, has assembled through the years about 40 different parcels. To date, the city, with help from the federal and the state and the county government, has constructed what we consider phase one of the Heritage Village Park development. In the last couple of years, it was an 11-acre off-leash dog park and some limited parking. We also, over the course of the last year, are constructing what we considered phase two, and it's a park pavilion that's historically themed. And when we reference historic to us, that means both the railroad, because we've got some carryover. We have existing railroad tracks adjacent to the park, but also some long-term railroad connections and railroad uses of this green space that are part of our heritage in the area. We want you to know that we are also undertaking right now this railroad themed kind of a bench lined sidewalk, walkway, and some accessible restrooms. But the grant would take us further, and further certainly than we as a community or a city can afford right now. And that's, again, to provide or allow this park to make basically or be more amenable to a wider variety of people in the region. Families, etc. And that's why we have landed and are very intent on wanting to pursue an inclusive play area, a water play area, and the support facilities that it will take so that that's a successful undertaking. We want you to know that we feel strongly in our community that attractive opportunities for children with mobility impairments are limited, we feel, throughout the region. We referenced, and a part of our—
Ms. Rand, can I have you wrap up, please?
Yes, you bet. So again, getting at this would be an inclusive playground for individuals with physical, social, and emotional needs. And then lastly, we wanted to underscore that we feel the continued development of this park also provides our Concord Boulevard a redevelopment opportunity. We have restaurants and marinas in that area that would like to have an additional asset that will bring more folks into the area so they can continue to grow and build tax base and jobs. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Rand. Any closing comments, Chair Richardson?
Just ask for support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair Richardson. Next up is Representative Howard's House File 664. Welcome to the committee. I understand that you have an amendment for reference code H06641A1. Please proceed, Representative Howard.
That's right, Mr. Chair. I do have that amendment. would a member care to move that amendment, or we just?
We're just hearing this on an informational basis, so just explain
Got it.
that and just proceed with your presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair. And excuse me, a little under the weather if you can't hear me too well. This bill is a bill to help us restore Wood Lake Nature Center, which is a true gem in our region with diverse offerings for our diverse community. It has been a refuge more than ever over this pandemic, but it's greatly in need of repair. And with that, I'll turn it over to my testifiers.
Welcome to the committee. Mayor Regan Gonzales, please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Maria Regan Gonzales, the mayor of Richfield. Thank you to Chair Lee and the Capital Investment Committee for having us here for a few minutes to talk about the Richfield Wood Lake Nature Center. So Wood Lake Nature Center is a 50-year-old, 150-acre wildland refuge located in Richfield, and it's a regional asset and a vital connection to nature, mental well-being, peace, environmental education for our students, our families, and individuals across the entire Twin Cities region. I also have Director Markle, our recreation director, here to answer any questions, and she's also was formerly the naturalist at Wood Lake for 15 years. So Wood Lake is one of the state's oldest public nature centers, and in a state that has some of the worst racial inequities and outcomes, including in mental health and well-being and physical health and access to parks, green space, and connection to nature. There is no other regional nature preserve and facility that is as easily accessible as Wood Lake to so many students, families, and communities that otherwise would have no access to such critical habitats like what we offer at Wood Lake. We have wetland, we have prairie, we have upland hardwood forest habitat, we have restored prairie, and we have a savanna ecosystem, which provides critical natural habitat in an urban setting. So Wood Lake is located in the heart of the urban core. Its exit is right off of 494. It's located on a bus line. It's accessible by biking or walking on the Three Rivers system. And we even have people who stop over at Wood Lake because they have a layover and we're so conveniently located next to the airport. It's free and it's open year round. And for years, Wood Lake has been leading in what it actually looks like to be more equitable and accessible to nature and all of the benefits that come from that. So we currently reach a broad demographic of folks across the region with inclusive, low to no in-cost environmental education and recreation programming. And we connect people to the natural world. And we offer programming that increases wellness and decreases stress of urban life. And we are so thankful to have great partnerships in our schools regionally and across communities of color that currently use Wood Lake. But we also want to partner with you to be a shining example of what the future of recreation and environmental education and access to nature looks like with your support. So I just want to thank the committee for hearing about this once in a lifetime opportunity to not only secure access to wellness, mental health and well-being in nature, but to really be a shining example of how we can be more equitable in so many outcomes that the state is lagging behind. Thank you to the committee, and Director Markle and I are here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor Regan Gonzales. Seeing no questions, Representative Howard, any closing comments?
No, Mr. Chair, thank you for your consideration. I really appreciate the time this morning.
Thank you, Representative Howard. Next up is Representative Akland's bill, House File 987. And members, you may recall that we visited this project in the fall of 2019. Welcome to the committee. Representative Akland, I understand that you have an amendment coded H0987A1 for reference. Please proceed and begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment, it was very simple. It just deleted some of the upgrades that had been done. And I'll proceed with the bill as amended. So this, thank you for hearing my bill today. And House File 987 would appropriate $8.5 million from the Bond Proceeds Fund to the Commissioner of Employment and Economic Development for a grant to the city of North Mankato. to design, construct, furnish, and equip an indoor recreational facility and make improvements to existing facilities at the Caswell Regional Sporting Complex. Currently, Caswell Park, as it is usually referred to, is one of the premier softball complexes in the nation, and it has hosted numerous state, regional, and national tournaments since opening in 1987. In 2014, Caswell North Soccer Complex opened. This money that we're requesting will provide needed enhancements to an existing state asset. The Caswell Regional Sporting Complex request is the product of nearly a decade's worth of regional discussion about the recreational needs in the Mankato, North Mankato metropolitan area, successful extension of an existing sales and use tax, and coordinated regional planning. At least 3 independent feasibility studies have been completed addressing the need for an indoor recreational court space in the area, including one study by the Minnesota Amateur Sports Commission. All agree sufficient demand exists for construction of a field house in an area of the state underserved by this type of asset. Enhancements to the existing park and the addition of the indoor field house are critical pieces in a constellation of recreational investments in the Mankato, North Mankato area, aimed at strengthening South Central Minnesota for future economic and livability success. I believe we have one testifier today. That would be the City Administrator of North Mankato, Mr. John Herenstein.
Mr. Herenstein, please identify yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony. Mr. Herenstein, I believe you're on mute right now.
Let me begin. Thank you, Chairman Lee. Thank you, Ranking Member Erdahl. Thank you, Representative Akland, for inviting us here today to discuss this Phase 2 request. And first, let me thank you sincerely. The $2 million that the Minnesota legislature appropriated to us last year was so meaningful, not only in its recognition of Caswell as a state institution and tourism destination, but I cannot tell you the excitement and hope and fun it gave us as we toiled through the pandemic, because we were planning for past the pandemic. And I really appreciate your investment in our area and the excitement and hope that it gave us. Thank you, Representative Akland, for just accurately describing this project. As the committee is aware, this is an $8.5 million request. We requested $10.5 million in, I believe, what would have been 2019, and we're funded at the $2 million level. With that $2 million, we resolved all of the deferred maintenance at the existing softball park. We will be installing a turf field at the soccer complex, as well as an additional grass soccer field. And we will complete this year full construction documents ready for bid for the indoor recreational facility. With the $2 million that you appropriated us, we matched with $2.3 million of local sales tax funds and $700,000 of local user group contributions. So this is certainly we were able to more than double the investment of the state at this important facility. I want to touch on some, it's the home to the Minnesota Girls State High School Softball Tournament. Has been home to the Aussie Peppers, Australians women Olympic softball team. More than 5 countries, 15 states, and several Minnesota teams regularly compete at the facility. This produces an average of 35,000 to 50,000 visitors annually. And during the midst of the pandemic, while average annual economic impact is between 5 to 8 million, we generated $4 million of economic impact in 2020. Combined with the loss of the Viking Spring Training Camp several years ago, this appropriation is exactly what our region needs to continue promoting local tourism and ensuring the Mankato, North Mankato MSA remains a strong regional center in southern Minnesota. As you are aware, the hospitality industry was hit hard by the pandemic, and this type of support is needed to ensure their full recovery. And it's also, as you can tell, we're very proud to be the home of one of Minnesota's jewels, Caswell Park. With that, I will conclude my comments, Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Hairston. Representative Akland, any closing comments?
Just want to say thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the committee for hearing our bill today, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Akland. Next up, we have Chair Marquart, House File 1286. Please proceed, Chair Marquart.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. What House File 1286 would provide $400,000 in bond proceeds to prepare and develop the former Norman County West High School site, and this would also include the demolition of buildings. So Norman County West is, this building is located in Halstead, Minnesota, about 35 miles north of Moorhead. And for the last few years, they have tuitioned out to Ada Borup to the east for high school. So this building hasn't been used for a few years for the high school students. And now the district is also consolidating with Ada Borup School District. So anyway, I do have here Superintendent Jim Hess that could explain the process or the project in more detail.
Welcome, Superintendent Hess. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Dr. Jim Hess. I'm Superintendent of Schools of Norman County West, and pleased to be with you this morning to provide testimony on House File 1286. When I conclude my remarks, I hope you'll recognize the pressing need for this proposed legislation and how it addresses a unique situation that may become more commonplace as Minnesota rural population continues to shrink. For years, the state of Minnesota has helped school districts remodel or construct facilities based on their economic conditions through the debt equalization aid, and more recently, the Ag to School programs, which help rural areas. Bond projects have often been approved after voters learn of the state's participation in repaying the debt. For example, last November, voters in a neighboring district nearly approved a $8.95 million bond project by 12 votes. I'm confident that state participation of 60 to 70% of that debt through the Ag to School program played a large role in persuading rural voters who were undecided to vote in favor of the ballot question. The state of Minnesota has participated in at least 2 school demolition projects involving the bonding process in recent years. Eagle Bend High School was demolished through the use of $1.5 million in state bonding fund when Eagle Valley and Browerville school districts consolidated. Cyrus School building was demolished using local bonding funds when it was consolidated with Morris. Now to our situation. Norman County West is a rural northwestern Minnesota school district, as Representative Marquart said, 30 miles north of Moorhead along Highway 75 and bordered in the west by the frequently flooding Wild Rice River. Farmers that grow corn, soybeans, and sugar beets are getting larger and larger as towns and school populations are getting smaller and smaller. Our school board members responded to the declining enrollment by reducing instructional staff and learning opportunities. The board recognized that they could not continue to cut personnel and maintain the quality of programs they wanted for their students. So Norman County West High School was closed 3 years ago, and a 3-year tuition agreement with Ada Borup schools was created for students in grades 6 through 12. Pre-K through 5th grade students are still educated at West Elementary School in the district. The school district has agreed to consolidate with Ada Borup effective July 1st. Now, Norman County school districts have been very frugal with their budget. and we have no bonded indebtedness. Unfortunately, due to declining enrollment and a costly tuition agreement, we have a very low fund balance. We don't have the funds to abate the asbestos and tear down the structure of at least 65,000 square feet. Estimates for the asbestos abatement we received were approximately $60,000, and we'd have to do this before we could do any demolition at the building site. Demolition quotes from 2 years ago ranged from $252,000 to $339,000 for full demolition and $177,000 to $262,000 for partial demolition, which would leave the newest addition to the school for community use. We as community stewards don't want to leave behind a deteriorating building that will quickly turn into an eyesore, a home for pigeons, bats, and vagrants, complete with broken windows, tall weeds, and a prime target for vandalism that will turn into a community blight. Courts call this an attractive nuisance when school districts are often sued and lose. As good neighbors, we'd like to leave the property clean and green, ready to be developed into the space the community needs for the future. To summarize, we'd like you to help us by passing House File 1286. The state has helped school districts construct buildings. The state has, on rare occasion, helped districts demolish school buildings. Norman County West schools are consolidating and will soon disappear, leaving behind a 1905 structure of approximately 65,000 square feet. The district wants to do the right thing by demolishing the deteriorating school, but unfortunately does not have the sufficient funds. House File 1286 would help us eliminate a problem and create opportunities for the future. Thank you.
Seeing no questions, Chair Marquart, any closing comments?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. And as you heard Dr. Hess describe this, while $400,000 may not seem like a big request compared to some you get, it would mean an awful lot to Norman County West School District. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Marquart. Next up is Chair Mariani, House File 1367. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Lee and members. House File 1367 appropriates $10 million to the City of St. Paul to design, build a YMCA community hub in downtown St. Paul. Funds must be matched with non-state sources. Downtown St. Paul, members, is the geographic heart of my district. It is also a natural gathering place for many of our cities and East Metro young people who have very little positive things going on in their lives. With little or no guidance, that could be dangerous for them and tragic in terms of their future. It also means it is an opportunity to intervene and provide both safety and direction for them. But there is nowhere in downtown for them to turn to. The Downtown YMCA has stepped up to be that place and guide as they rebuild and seeking assistance from the state to help build a center with well-structured support and guidance for these young people. Here to provide details otherwise, YMCA CEO Glenn Gunderson.
Sir Gunderson, please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Lee, and thank you, Representative Mariani, and I appreciate our opportunity to present today. We've been with you before, and we appreciate being with you again. The YMCA Downtown Community Hub is a very special project. We have a distinct desire to engage at a very intensive social outreach level in downtown St. Paul. Representative Mariani mentioned the importance of this particular district, and we sit right across from the transit hub where we know we have an opportunity to engage young people. We will have three very distinct elements at this center. One is a youth and family services outreach capability. We do this in Hennepin County and in Anoka County, have a long history of engaging young people around housing, around critical support and critical needs. In effect, 86% of the young people that we engage with in youth and family services go from precariously housed or highly mobile or homeless to having stable housing. 96% find themselves being in a much stronger position from a life skills standpoint, and 100% represent that they are safer coming through these services. We also are going to engage on an equity innovation front. So as we've seen, our region being kind of the global epicenter for social and racial justice reckoning, the Y will have an equity innovation capability on site where we'll be focused on convening community. We're doing this on the other side of the river today, where we're engaging school districts, communities, cities, civic leaders, school groups, corporations, and helping to build cultural competence in our community, helping to build equity leaders. We think this is a particular strong and important time to do this work. We also are going to be underwriting effort around integrative care and well-being. So a spirit, mind, body, community concept of well-being, which we think is critically important, especially as we're coming through these multiple crises, from economic crisis to the pandemic. It is important that we see more advancement of well-being activity. And we're very excited about this site. It's a main site in downtown St. Paul. The Y has been in downtown St. Paul since 1856, since we were a Minnesota territory. And this is an important place for us to anchor ourselves. We know from a community perspective, the transit hub itself is an incredibly important place for us to draw young people in. We'll be integrated with the Best Buy Teen Tech Center that we coordinate and operate just a block away. This is the former Ecolab headquarters, and in effect, we build up from that platform, as you can see, and we build below with a classroom and engagement space. We are committed to raising all the funds that would match the state's commitment. Many of those funds have been raised and are contingent on state support. So this is a tremendous opportunity for us to leverage your generous support from a state perspective and generate this community hub. We also, through the pandemic, have been getting engaged with food distribution and with other forms of critical needs. And then some of those activities will be able to be extended from a community hub of this sort. So we appreciate the time, the consideration, and with that, I'll turn it back to Representative Mariani and Chair Lee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gunderson. Chair Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Mariani, thank you for bringing this forward. I know the needs are great in downtown St. Paul. To the testifier, pretty much everything you said applies to Northern Dakota County as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the YMCA that was there was demolished and is now an open pit of construction site. So communities of color, transit area, involving people, kids learning to swim and seniors gathering together to swim, all that's gone. It's just disappointing that I don't see the same passion where an area was served by the Y, but is now in a strip mall. Certainly doesn't have the outdoor or the indoor pools that used to be there. So we've talked about this before, but I don't see a plan or any actual solution coming to fruition.
So if I might respond, so thank you, Representative Hansen. We've had a chance to meet on this. We have talked about it. Certainly we care very deeply. Representative is talking about our West St. Paul Y, the former Y in West St. Paul. Our intention is to find a site for that region. We haven't been successful yet. We are a YMCA, we are a nonprofit. We are aggressively pursuing expansion of mission and support across our entire region. And that particular community remains very important to us. We were not in a sustainable opportunity with the West St. Paul branch. It was not a financially viable situation. We worked very intensively with the city with an intent to try to find something we could do together. We haven't yet found that appetite or that location, but we continue to pursue it. We do operate just south on Robert to the representative's point, in a mall-based location versus a standalone building. And our goal is to find a standalone building for that region as well. Obviously, we have lots of growth interest relative to community need. The community needs are great. They're great in West St. Paul. They're great across our entire region. And we have a distinct desire and a commitment to serve in that community again. But we also have limits, and we can't be in certain places forever. To the extent that the support isn't there. And we did see declining funding support and revenues in that community, and haven't yet been able to find the right site for going forward, but we will.
Chair Moran and then Representative Raleigh and Mr. Gunderson, can you keep your answers short? Chair Moran.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair Lee. To Mr. Gunderson, thank you first for bringing the Y to St. Paul, downtown St. Paul, which is, we need it. It's desperately is needed. But I want to ask you about access. Yes. Of all the things that you talked about, we want to make sure that those families and that you talked about are able to have access to the Y. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. About 20% of all of our engagement of programs, services, membership is fully supported with scholarship. Equity, access, and well-being are strategic tenets for us. If we look across to all the activity we're doing in the community, access for those underserved is a primary focus of the Y. This site, because of its equity innovation focus, its youth and family services focus, will have even a more demonstrable position in terms of serving those that otherwise wouldn't have access to these capabilities, services, and support. So a fundamental commitment for us in general, and in particular with this site in terms of how it's oriented.
Representative Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Up in the Lino Lakes area, we had a Young Men's Christian Association dedicated standalone building, and it has been shut down, and I'm wondering if you'd be able to address my community in Lino Lakes.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for asking, Representative.
And then follow up, Representative Raleigh as needed. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed something there?
Please proceed to answering the questions, but keep it short so that we can move on to the next agenda item.
Gotcha. Thank you, Chair. Yes, we did have to make a similar change in Lino Lakes to what happened at West St. Paul. We did convey that building back to the city of Lino Lakes. The city owned the land. We owned the building. We put about $15 million investment into that building about a decade and a half ago, as you would know. We saw significantly declining enrollment in that facility. Membership was cut effectively in half, and then got much, much worse during the pandemic. So we didn't have a sustainable proposition there. Many of our members, as you might expect, moved to our new center in Forest Lake, and others were served in White Bear and Maplewood and other surrounding facilities. One of the things you'll see is we're moving more to a community response hub model versus large monolithic facilities. We're seeing that as a trend nationally, especially coming out of the pandemic, that membership will be more challenging to support. We'll do more and more support outside of our four walls, but the Lino Lakes facility and also a Prior Lake facility are being reimagined as a consequence of the pandemic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Christensen, and I encourage you to follow with Representative Hansen and Raleigh as needed. Thank you, Chair Mariani. Next up, we have Representative Jurgens. Welcome back, Representative Jurgens. House File 1392. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's certainly my pleasure to be back in front of this committee. And as you said, I'm here to present House File 1392. This is the St. Croix Bluffs Regional Park boat launch improvements. Washington County seeking $500,000 in state funding to construct the improvements at the launch at St. Croix Bluffs Regional Park. This funding will be matched by $500,000 from Washington County. This boat launch, or this project, we did have a request in last year, and we were scheduled for a hearing almost exactly a year ago. And then when COVID hit, so many things had to get canceled, and we weren't able to present this project. So I'm happy to be here today. I have Washington County Commissioner Wayne Johnson and Washington County Parks Director Sandy Brewer. I'll let them do most of the presentation. I just want to point out a couple things about the project, though. The current boat launch was built over 30 years ago, and it is beyond its life expectancy. And this new project would help make the pedestrian access to the boat launch more accessible for all, and also to the fishing pier more accessible to all. Representative Lilly joined me in a visit there a little over a year ago, so he saw firsthand what I'm talking about. The Metro Regional Park system depends on state bonding and for acquisition and capital improvements. And so that's why we're coming to the state for this project. And with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Wayne Johnson.
Commissioner Johnson, please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Lee and members of the Capital Investment Committee for having us here today. As stated, my name is Wayne Johnson, and I am the County Commissioner for District 4 in Washington County. We are before you today to ask for funding for the St. Croix Bluffs Regional Park boat launch to the St. Croix River. The launch is deteriorating due to its high use and long service life. I'd also like to thank Representative Lilly and Representative Jurgens for taking the time to come down and witnessing the urgent need for this. The St. Croix Bluffs Regional Park provides access to the St. Croix River as the only publicly managed boat launch south of Bayport on the federally protected waterway. This launch provides not only recreational access, but also provides access to public safety and the DNR so they can get on the river for emergency purposes and to patrol the waterway. During a water emergency where seconds count, this access is crucial. In 2018, Washington County confirmed the boat launch needed reconstruction. The bottom of the boat launch has a steep slope break and a large hole has formed from boats landing. When water levels are low, trailers will fall into the hole, bottoming out and receive damage to the trailer and the wheel axles. Project improvements include dredging the bay to remove buildup sediment, a new boat ramp with an extended concrete apron that is constructed to accommodate current boat designs that are larger and more powerful, new accessible pedestrian access to the boat launch and boat slip area, new boat slips with additional capacity and easier access, and a new accessible fishing pier to provide access to all. For all, the improvements will provide easy and equitable access to the river, providing additional recreational experiences for everyone. If funding is not allocated, the county will continue to implement low-cost repairs, but over time, the launch will continue to decline in condition, and the deteriorating conditions of the boat launch may force Washington County to close it. The pandemic greatly increases the number of guests to all parks in 2020. The boat launch provides access to the river so families can get outdoors while following CDC and MDH guidelines. We expect continual high use moving forward. Washington County is seeking $500,000, which will be matched by Washington County for the construction of the improvements. Thank you for your consideration today.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Representative Murphy, is that a question? You're on mute right now.
Mr. Chair, could the commissioner provide us on the side the breakdown of the funding for the dredging and the launch and the different things that they're going to do with the 500,000 or the million?
Okay, Commissioner Johnson, can you forward that information to Ms. Jenny Nash, and we'll make sure to send it out to committee members. Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Jurgens for bringing this forward. I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to go over there, and he's right. You know, there's a big public safety issue. A lot of people get on the river and get in trouble. So that's a big thing. And as we're seeing in all these park requests, parks are super popular, and this lot is full, and it's of people trying to get out. So this is a good project, and like a lot of the park things, they're super popular right now, and so hopefully we can be bold on these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lilly. Representative Frankie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I would just like to also add that I don't know if people realize we have so few public access points to the rivers in the Twin Cities coming south from St. Paul. I believe there's only two, one on my side in St. Paul Park and one over in South St. Paul until you get to Hastings where the Mississippi connects to the St. Croix. And it's projects like these that we need to keep up because so many people, and I see it in my own city because people drive down here specifically to get use of that public access from all over the region, especially the Twin Cities. So I see Representative Hewitt's hand up. He might correct me or agree, but.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Frankie. Representative Hewitt, quick question or comment?
Yeah, quick comment. I just wanted to, this is definitely a regional issue. I hear it from Rosemount all the time, so I'm with my other legislators in the area. We need to work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hewitt, and Representative Jurgens, thank you for coming by, and thank you, Commissioner Johnson, if you could follow up with that information. Next up, we have...
Mr. Chair, if I could just finish quickly and say that we do have the breakdown of the project costs, and Sandy Brewer will be emailing that to Jenny Nash right away. And Representative Murphy, I thought your question was going to be if this is shovel ready or not, and I can assure you that it is.
Thank you, Representative Jurgens. Next up is Representative Hollins, House File 1926. Please proceed, Representative Hollins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members. I am honored to be here today presenting House File 1926 to you, which is funding for Como Zoo. This asset is in my district. It is absolutely an amazing asset, and it is used widely by folks from all over the state of Minnesota, not just the city of St. Paul. And I know this for a fact because I went there when I lived in various parts of the state, and I always bring visitors from everywhere else to come see it as well. So I won't take up any more time. I will go ahead and turn it over to my testifier, Michele Pearson, to talk about the ask.
Ms. Pearson, please identify yourself and proceed with the testimony.
For the record, my name is Michele Pearson. I am the director at Como Park Zoo and Conservatory. So thank you for having me. I do want to point out a picture. I did not bring any animals today, but this is a photo of our penguins doing a walk through our sunken garden last year during the spring show because we were closed and we had no people, but we're excited that the spring show will be opening this Saturday with people and visitors. For those who don't know, Como Park Zoo and Conservatory, my slide is not, I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare. But for those who don't know, Como Park Zoo and Conservatory is open and free to the public. We are owned and operated by the city of St. Paul through the Department of Parks and Recreation. And we see almost 1.8 million visitors per year. And they come from all over this. For some reason, my slideshow is not working. Okay, is it projecting? Someone would shake their head that I'm moving forward. Okay. The visitors come from all over the state of Minnesota. In fact, despite the budget of the general fund supporting Como from the city of St. Paul at 32%, only 16% of our visitors are residents of St. Paul. 47% come from out of the rest of the metro area. In greater Minnesota, we see almost 377,000 visitors each year. And out of state, we actually contribute to the economic impact of the tourism market here in the state of Minnesota with 15% of our visitors. And this is just a quick snapshot of some of our participant demographics. This is our free programming that we offer through our education department, about 25% of our education programs. And you can see that breakdown is a little bit skewed higher to the greater Minnesota area, but the number of participants who are on the free and reduced lunch program, as well as the demographic makeup of those participants. So our request today is for $1.5 million in asset preservation and betterment of capital nature to infrastructure and exhibits at Como Park Zoo and Conservatory. So you can see from the diagram, it's the entry exhibits as people exit the visitor center. Como's over a century-old facility needs the updates not only to meet modern zoological practices, but also to be more energy efficient. This ask gets the project to shovel ready, and phase one would be our orangutan habitat. Orangutans have been part of Como's history since the 1950s, and the current infrastructure was introduced in the 80s. Como has been a leader in international conservation work. In fact, right here in Minnesota, we are the keepers of the International Stud Book records for all captive orangutans worldwide. And one of our staff was just recently named the national chair of the Species Survival Plan for the taxon group of orangutans. We envision that this project will include an expanded indoor and outdoor area that not only provides educational opportunities for the thousands of children that visit, but also is more enriching to our resident grade 8s. I know we're short on time, but I also want to do a quick thank you for previous support. Como Harbor, which is our Seal and Sea Lion project, is on track to open in June. You can see some pictures here of some different progress of the project. This was a $21 million total project and is an example of the good stewards Como has been on past projects, leveraging private dollars and working on time and on budget. So with that, I'm just going to stop and ask if there are any questions, but also thank you for your time and consideration today.
Representative Hollins, any closing comments?
Just thank you very much to my testifier. Thank you to the committee members. It is truly an honor to carry this legislation as one of my favorite places in the state of Minnesota. I'm really excited, and I hope that you all are just as excited as I am about it.
Thank you, Representative Hollins. And just a reminder for testifiers to please keep your comments short so that we could fit in the other local projects that are coming up that's on the agenda too. Next up is Representative Christiansen's House File 1424. I understand that you have the amendment for reference coded H 1424A1. Please proceed with some comments about the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the amendment amends the amount needed for this project from $2 million to $2.5 million. When we had the bill drafted in November, December, we had preliminary estimates of repairs for the roof that needs repair. But now we have final numbers which came back higher than expected due to the historic nature of the building that you'll hear about now.
Commissioner Creso, please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair Leah, members of the Capital Investment Committee for having us here today. As stated, my name is Gary Creasel. I am the County Commissioner for District 3 in Washington County. With me also is Alex McKinney, one of our parks managers who oversees the operations of the Washington County Courthouse, Historic Courthouse. We are before you today to ask for funding for the Historic Courthouse located in Stillwater, Minnesota, birthplace of our state. As the oldest standing courthouse in the state of Minnesota, the Historic Courthouse conveys a sense of civic pride to residents and visitors from across the state. Construction of the courthouse began in 1867 and was completed in 1870. The courthouse was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1975. Today, the courthouse acts as a community gathering space with over 10,000 visitors each year. The building reminds us of the history of our great state and also looks toward a bright future. However, the building needs our help. In 2018, Washington County commissioned a complete building and site assessment for the Historic Courthouse. This report concluded that while the building has been well maintained, urgent repairs to the exterior roof and dome are required. The project improvements include replacing a leaking roof, the complete restoration of the wood dome structure and cupola at the peak of the roof, tuck pointing to address cracking and wear on exterior walls, other exterior restorations, including additional window replacements and adding storm windows. The improvements will allow the building to serve the community for another 100 years, another 100 ice cream socials, 100 more talent shows, 100 more Veterans Day celebrations, 100 more Law Enforcement Day recognition ceremonies, 100 more years of service to the public. In so many ways, this building represents our history and our future. We look forward to maintaining this building for generations to come. I am humbled to ask this committee to support Washington County's request of $2.5 million in state funds, which will be matched by $2.5 million of county funds. We thank you for your time and are happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Creso. Representative Christensen, any closing comments?
Yeah, I hope hope you can all support this project. This is an important piece of history for our state. And of course, it's a landmark in the birthplace of Minnesota and Stillwater. I'm going to read just quickly an article from the Stillwater Republican, our newspaper in 1868 about the building. Construction was temporarily slowed late in October 1868 when inadequate scaffolding on the inside of the building suddenly gave way, throwing some half dozen workers to the ground. 2 were seriously injured, and one bricklayer, Henry Ghostley of Minneapolis, was catapulted some 50 feet over the wall, turning 2 somersaults in midair and landing squarely on his head. His death, of course, was immediate. So in honor of Henry Ghostley's sacrifice, I certainly hope you can all support House File 1424. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Representative Christensen. Next up, we have Chair Akland, House File 468. Please proceed, Chair Akland.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. House File 468 provides $3.5 million in bonding for acquisition, development, and design of 4 sections of the Gitchigami State Trail. This would match $900,000 in federal funds and $1.8 million in previously appropriated state funds. It is a top priority of the community and businesses along the North Shore. Most of you are familiar with this trail, but in case it's new to you, the Gitchigami Trail is an 86-mile trail hugging the coastline of Lake Superior from 2 harbors to Grand Marais. The trail connects communities, amenities, and links to some of the Minnesota's most visited state parks, waysides, waterfalls, and beaches. To date, just over 30 miles are completed. Currently, the completed sections are from Gooseberry State Park to Silver Bay, from Schroeder to Ski Hill Road in Lutsen, and a short section from Grand Marais to the Cut Face Wayside. Each section added makes it more alluring as a premier bicycling destination. Funding from this bill would provide additional key connections and lay the groundwork for new connections. They have Michele Pearson from the Gitchigami Trail Association who will present the details of the project. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Ms. Pearson, please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Representative Akland, and Capital Investment Committee members for this opportunity to join you today. My name is Michele Pearson, and I am the Executive Director of the Gitchigami Trail Association. The Trail Association is a nonprofit organization guided by an all-volunteer board of directors that's supporting Minnesota DNR's efforts to construct and advance the Gitchigami State Trail. And we've been at it for more than 20 years. I'd like to begin by thanking the Capital Investment Committee members for past support and past appropriations. This is a state trail and a state amenity, and it really is a true destination. In this past pandemic year, as many of you know and have experienced.
The best presentation so far.
Staff, please mute the members that are not talking. Please proceed, Ms. Pearson.
Thank you. And the state parks on the North Shore and the State Trail saw upwards of 50% more visitorship in the pandemic year, as many of us sought solace in the great outdoors. And the North Shore provides such a rich opportunity to engage with Lake Superior. And that's what this trail does too. It really forges important connections. Today we are supporting 4 projects on the Gitchigami State Trail. And first I'd like to call your attention that in your committee packet, we prepared a letter of support that is signed on by many businesses and entities, as well as a handout that showcases the 4 projects that we'd like to highlight. The first project is in Lutsen, Minnesota. Currently, the trail ends at the Ski Hill Road intersection with Highway 61. We are seeking an additional $1.5 million in order to construct trail from Ski Hill Road up to the Caribou Trail in Lutsen. And the Lutsen community members, its town board, and business leaders are extremely supportive of extending the trail throughout this core area of the community. Currently, there is $1.1 million awarded to the first phase of this project. We're seeking an additional $1.5 million to enable to fully construct the trail from the Ski Hill Road to the Caribou Trail intersection, which would end near the Lutsen Town Hall, and the town has offered to provide its parking area as a trailhead. This funding is very crucial for the town. The town has recognized that there is grave safety concerns as road shoulders are 3 feet or less within the town of Lutsen, and many of the residents, guest workers, international guest workers who work at resorts and area businesses, especially in the summertime, are forced to use the road shoulders at this point to get to work in places they'd like to go. Additionally, this funding would help connect residents and visitors to Lutsen to other North Shore communities of Tofte and Schroeder, and make an important connection to Temperance River State Park. So this is a really important project. It not only leverages former appropriated money from Federal Transportation Alternatives and LCCMR, it is a vital safety concern for the community of Lutsen. Moving on to the second project, we're requesting $1 million.
Pearson, can I have you wrap up, please?
Oh, yes. Okay, so the other three projects are $1 million for a trail segment in Tofte, and also $500,000 to design and engineer a 7-mile segment between Silver Bay and Tetegooch State Park, and $500,000 in 2 harbors to connect the town, the R.J. Hoole Visitor Center to the Flood Bay State Wayside. These are all very vital, important connections along the North Shore of Lake Superior. Mr. Chair, thank you for your time, and please, I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Chair Miranda, I see you have your hands up. Do you have a question?
No, I'm sorry, Chair. That was a couple of presentations behind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chair Akland, any quick closing comments?
Thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the consideration, and I invite everybody up to take a tour of the Gitchigami Trail. I appreciate the time. Have a great day.
Thank you, Chair Akland. Next up, we have Representative Zhang's bill, House File 1351. Representative Thompson is on to help out with the presentation. Please proceed, Representative Thompson.
Thank you, committee. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to present this important bill today. Representative Zhang, my colleague, couldn't be here. So as the co-author, I'm excited to be here to introduce House File 1351. It is an important bill to the city of St. Paul, and in particular, the East Side, which happens to be my district. This bill is for the St. Paul Port Authority. They have purchased, Port Authority purchased former Hillcrest golf site with the intentions of cleaning up the contaminated land and turning it into a development site with affordable housing, low barrier to entry living wage, jobs, parks, and the goal of being a carbon-free community. This is a $2 million request for site analysis, planning, design, and engineering. And the Port Authority would also match this $2 million. So I'm excited just to be co-authoring this bill and can't wait to see the transformation of this beautiful site here on the East Side. I would like to introduce my testifier, who is St. Paul City Council Member Nelsie Yang, to walk you through the project, if you will, Chair.
Councilmember Yang, welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Lee. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nelsie Yang, council member in St. Paul Ward 6. Upon getting elected in 2019, I became the youngest person at 24 years old and first Hmong American woman elected as council member in the history of St. Paul. I'm here today to request $2 million for site analysis, planning, design, and engineering to get the former Hillcrest Golf Course in our ward shovel ready for development. I represent a diverse community of proud working class people. Over half of our residents are Black, Indigenous, or people of color, with over a third identifying as Asian or Pacific Islander. The majority of our households in my ward make under $75,000 per year, with the most common household earning under $35,000. The people in my ward need this investment to make these 112 acres of land safe, economically beneficial with good jobs and affordable housing, and enjoyable with natural green space and parkland. I want to take a few moments to share the location of the site and the vision of its potential. So in this first screen here, you'll see the site in red within a map that shows the metro region, and it's located right on McKnight Road and just 5 minutes north of Interstate 94. The second slide here, you'll see that it sits on the corner of Larpenteur and McKnight. East of McKnight here is St. Paul. To the west is, west is St. Paul and east is Maplewood. This slide here shows the widespread contamination And you can see the contamination with the red diagonal lines. The contaminant is mercury from years of fungicide applications intended to inhibit mold growth on the course. And you can see how the areas, they align with the former greens here. This next slide shows the dilapidated clubhouse that exists on the site today. And these next two slides are the two finalist scenarios that have been making their way through our city's master plan process right now, and that'll be completed in early 2022. So this is what the site could look like in the future. It's very exciting. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. Next, I'd like to share background information. The St. Paul Port Authority acquired the former Hillcrest Golf Course in 2019. They then completed an environmental investigation, which determined the need to remediate the widespread mercury contamination, residual pesticides, petroleum, and buried debris. Maxfield Research performed a market study to identify local marketplace needs. From this market study, the City of St. Paul and the St. Paul Port Authority agreed on a development framework with the following goals: create 1,000 jobs, 1,000 housing units, 20 acres of parks and green space. To reach these goals, development will occur in 3 phases. The first phase is from now until 2022. We're focusing on master planning, environmental assessment, design, and engineering. Phase 2 is from 2023 to 2024, focusing on environmental cleanup, site improvements, infrastructure construction. Phase 3 is 2024 to 2032, and we'll be focusing on ground up building construction. The bonding request in front of you today is only for phase 1. A diverse community advisory committee known as the CAC began meeting in October 2019 to inform the city's master plan for this site. In addition to their monthly meetings, we've had several broad-based community engagement. Can I
have you wrap up, please?
Absolutely, thank you. Well, I wanted to name that, this is the start of a 10-year mixed-use brownfield redevelopment. It's going to be incredibly impactful for our marginalized communities in the East Side. We're going to have senior housing, affordable housing, living wage jobs with low barriers to entry in St. Paul. It's incredibly important, and thank you so much for your time. I hope that you will vote to approve this request.
Representative Ryer, quick question or comment?
Very quick comment. I really support this. I grew up, born and raised down Larpenteur from this location toward Phelan Park. And so I have watched it over the decades as a property that is languishing and worthy of investment. It'll be great for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Ryer, and thank you, Representative Thompson. Next up is Representative Frankie's House File 201. Please proceed, Representative Frankie.
Thank you, Chair Lee and members. I'll try to be brief. House File 201 is an appropriation of bond proceeds to the Minnesota Amateur Sports Commission for a grant to the City of South St. Paul for pre-design, design, construction, install, and renovate their heating ventilation system at the Doug Woog Arena. Doug Woog, as many may know, has been a great hockey player and coach. The Doug Woog Arena also connects back to former Senator Metzen who was a South St. Paul resident, who also helped to create the Mighty Ducks program to help bring a lot of our statewide infrastructure with ice arenas up to date. There's a lot of great information in your packet that I will refer to instead of speak about. And I will turn it over to my testifier, Joel Hanson, City Administrator of South St. Paul.
Mr. Hanson, please identify yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Joel Hanson, the City Administrator for the City of South St. Paul. Just to give you some quick background, Doug Woog Arena was constructed back almost 60 years ago with Rink 1. Rink 2 was added in 1997. This is a regional facility that serves many of the communities in the Southeast metro area. Rink 1 is virtually unusable in the summer months because we do not have air conditioning or humidity control in that part of the arena. If we were to have ice in that space, the rink will be foggy and water drips from the ceiling, making the ice unplayable. If it was a dry land space, it becomes unusable because of the heat humidity buildup. We're asking for an upgrade to our HVAC system in Rink 1 that would address those concerns and take care of spectator heating replacement. The city would contribute the first $50,000 to offset those costs. I also want to acknowledge, the state's support for arenas, as Representative Frankie mentioned, through the James Metzen Mighty Duck bill. that helps address the change out of the R22 Freon systems. Unfortunately, South St. Paul never was able to take advantage of that program because we changed out the system just before that bill was enacted at a cost of about $1 million. So this bill would give us a chance to help recover some of those costs. I want to point out one other challenge we face is that the arena has been operating at a deficit for a number of years. It currently stands about $1 million that we think we can have retired in 5 years due to improved management and increased ice rentals. If House File 201 was addressed, it would give us more capabilities to generate revenue and provide more accessibility for the Southeast Metro region. On behalf of the Mayor and City Council, I just want to thank you for your time and support and consideration of HF 201. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. And Representative Frankie, any closing comments?
I would just like to add, Mr. Chair, members, that South St. Paul's been very proactive in investing a lot of their own funds into this rink, making it environmentally conscious decisions to transition from the R22 on their own dime, and also transitioning to electric Zambonis from gas. And this is a very simple ask. So thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative Frankie. Next up, we have Representative Erdahl, House File 560. There's an amendment coded H0560A1 as for reference. Please proceed, Representative Erdahl.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many of our small towns in greater Minnesota are suffering from physically deteriorating historic downtowns. And I speak with knowledge of Litchfield, which, like many of our towns, has an 1880s vintage downtown built with bricks from a local brickyard. These soft bricks are in serious disrepair and desperately need reconstruction. This bill will provide grants, and I left it as a blank appropriation at this time because we'll just depend on the generosity of the chair of the committee to determine how much we need to do. But the bill will provide grants through the Minnesota Historical Society to towns under 15,000 with historic commercial districts listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And these buildings must have facades in need of repair. There are at least 20 of these towns in Minnesota fitting this criteria. The executive director, Eric Day of the Mid-Minnesota Development Commission, has sent a letter to me saying that this funding will reinvigorate and revitalize main streets throughout the state as financially strapped businesses receive an injection of resources needed to improve their aging buildings. I have with me today a counselor from the city of Litchfield, Darlene Kotelnicki, and she will testify.
Councilor Kotelnicki, please identify yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I am Darlene Kotelnicki. On the Litchfield City Council, I am also chairman of our Heritage Preservation Commission, and I'm also a member of the Litchfield Downtown Council, which is our Main Street program. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. A facade grant for Litchfield's Commercial Historic District would significantly improve our community and our local economy in several ways. Business attraction and retention is important, and businesses looking to buy downtown buildings are hampered by the cost of repairs, primarily the brickwork, which is a big expense. Current property owners have been hit hard not only by COVID, but also our 2020 highway project, which shut down Main Street last summer. With the expansion of Bobcat, Litchfield is facing a severe housing shortage. Opening up second-story windows that have been boarded up will help ease that shortage by developing second-story apartments. There are also two secondary gains. The replacement windows and storefront and second-story windows can be purchased and energy efficient. And the addition of storefront awnings will also help be energy efficient. Both of these will help to decrease energy needs in the future. The other secondary gain is the purchase of materials and use of labor locally. This puts money back into the stressed local economy. The City of Litchfield is ready to hit the ground running and will offer to be a pilot project for this. We have a Heritage Preservation Commission, a recent highway project with MnDOT's professional evaluations of the building, and a joint committee that the city requested between the Heritage Preservation Commission, the Planning Commission, and Mid-Minnesota Regional Development. Our goal is to work on downtown. We are ready to assemble a professional team for this project, and we would hope that you act favorably. I'm available for questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilmember Kotelnicki. Representative Erdahl, any closing comments?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that Councilor Kotelnicki summed it up well, but she's talking about Litchfield, which is just, again, one of many cities across the state of Minnesota that could benefit from a program like this. So thank you, and appreciate the committee's consideration in the future.
Thank you, Representative Erdahl. Next up, we have Representative Hansen, House File 1756. Please proceed, Chair Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm pleased to present House File 1756. This is a bipartisan comprehensive package for safety programs with trails in Dakota County. Did I mention it was safety programs for grade separation, railroad and highway crossings? And I have former member Commissioner Joe Atkins here to talk about the safety program with the pedestrian and bicycle trails.
Thank you, Chair Hansen. Welcome back, Commissioner Atkins. Please identify yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's great to see everybody. I'm Joe Atkins. I serve on the Dakota County Board. You've obviously heard a lot of important projects this morning. This one will save lives. We have over 700,000 users on our greenways every year. These are families, they're kids, they're older adults heading home, heading to school, to local businesses. But we have three gaps in our system that pit them against active rail lines, not just one, but several. Heavy truck traffic, hundreds of trucks per day, and tens of thousands of vehicles. The photos in your packet tell this story. I'm not sure if I can share my screen because I'm rather technologically limited, but I believe you're seeing it now. And this is in your packets, but you've got, this is the Rosemont Gap. I'll scroll down. This is the one along Highway 42, County Road 42 in Apple Valley. And further down, and perhaps most stark, this is just one of the rail lines over which users travel. And I'm gonna come back to it. So I think the photos themselves tell the story. We are seeking $13 million to leverage another $15 million. And I will call Representative Murphy, Chair Murphy's attention to that. Yes, that is more than 50% match, because every time I've ever sought a bonding project, Representative Murphy makes sure, and I know Chair Lee, you're looking for the same, but the leverage is $15 million for $28 million of shovel-ready projects, overpasses, underpasses, grade separations, and connections to literally get kids and families of all incomes and backgrounds safely from one side of the tracks to the other. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions. We're also joined by Todd Huppengarter to talk about some of the safety issues and challenges.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Representative Hewitt.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me? Okay. I just want to come back with my support for these projects. I cannot believe some of them that are in my area, that basically we have bikers going over railroad tracks. We've had fatal incidents along these roads. And so I really, really need to show my support and really encourage people to look at this again. And I'm sure we'll tour these areas again this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hewitt. Any closing comments, Chair Hansen?
It's an important safety project that would help bring in additional money. It's bipartisan, comprehensive throughout the county, regional in nature. I'd ask for your support.
Thank you, Chair Hansen. And the last bill for today's agenda is Chair Murphy. Chair Murphy, I think you're on mute. Okay.
Yes, I keep getting muted when I've prepared not to be muted. House File 1039 is the local recreational grants that the Department of Natural Resources administers with in connection with the legacy money and the state money for trails and connections in greater Minnesota, as well as their competitive grants throughout the state of Minnesota to make connections of trails. And I have a testifier, Gina Hugo, is coordinator of Sherburne County Parks, and she will speak to the more details because I am a representative without a trail.
Thank you, Chair Murphy. Ms. Hugo, please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Gina Hugo. I am the Parks Coordinator for Sherburne County. And I want to thank Representative Murphy for giving me the opportunity to testify on behalf of Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails. I feel extremely privileged to be advocating for local parks and trails because I really believe they contribute to quality of life for Minnesotans throughout the state in a really meaningful way. These locally managed lands are often the gateway to healthy outdoor activity, a connection to nature, and a sense of environmental responsibility for our youth. And they provide daily access to the many Minnesotans who don't have the luxury of traveling to larger state or regional facilities. These local facilities, for the most part, remove the financial barrier of user fees. And the DNR grant programs associated with House File 1039 have given so many communities in our state the ability to meet the recreation needs of our residents. The Outdoor Recreation Grant enables communities in outstate Minnesota to make facilities more accessible and more relevant to our state's diversifying population. And we're reaping the benefits of this program in Sherburne County with a project that will go on the ground this year and will install an ADA accessible trail through one of our natural parks to the Mississippi River and construct 2 accessible viewing areas of the river as well. Additionally, the Local Trail Connections grant program is critical to connect Minnesotans of all ages to parks, regional and state trails, schools, and historic sites. And we've again benefited in Sherburne County from this grant program by partnering with our county's historic center. And we're able to design and install an ADA accessible trail through their native prairie to their main outdoor exhibit, which is a really popular destination for school field trips. The Small History Center sees over 1,000 students a year, and there's been multiple times that people with limited mobility have been excluded from seeing that exhibit. But because of this program, we can change that, and that's really gratifying and exciting for us. Cities and counties throughout Minnesota have seen a surge in park use during the fluctuating circumstances of the pandemic, and it's been no different in Sherburne. We've seen unprecedented use levels even during the typically quiet winter months. So there's some funding urgency to ensure that our communities can provide for this increased use into the future. And in challenging budget times like this, assistance from the state is really a necessary catalyst to not just get these projects done, but to get them done in a way that prioritizes equity and accessibility and inclusiveness through the vetting of the state's DNR application and review process, which really demands that in the applicants. And that concludes my testimony. Thank you again so much for your time, your consideration today. And we hope that you do move forward with a bonding bill this year and you see to include funding for state parks and trails. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hugo. Chair Murphy, any closing comments?
No, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your consideration and the testimony that was just heard.
Thank you, Chair Murphy. And members, that's the concluding bill for our agenda today. Before we leave, I do want to note for all of you and for the public that we will not be meeting next Tuesday, March 23rd, but rather on Monday, March 22nd, because of a session that's going to occur at our normal meeting time at 8:30. And so more information will be posted and will be sent to all of you from Ms. Jenny Nash. And for next Monday's hearing on the 22nd, we will hear several bills that's related to transportation geo bonding on an informational basis only. With that, this meeting is adjourned.